Welcome to I Heart Geek. And welcome to another episode of I Heart Geek.
The Simpsons.
Yes, we are discussing all things Simpsons. And you know what surprised me on this before we start, and I tell everybody everything about the Simpsons in the panel. I thought that every single person was so into the Simpsons, and then I went through and okay, I was trying to get the cast together, and 90% of our cast, I only watched 4 seasons at the most.
And then there's me.
Huh? I thought that everybody had seen every episode of The Simpsons, and that just blows my mind. I don't know.
And then there's me.
Yes,
I mean,
pandemic Simpsons.
We got things going on too, so I mean, I have seen every episode, but how many am I going to remember?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we'll get into all that in a minute.
Yeah.
I'm Dub. I'm here with Courtney. I'm here with Tyler, and we're here with Todd. How is everybody doing?
Excellent.
It has been a
I want
long...
to do the Bartman.
Who doesn't want to do the Bartman? It has been so long since we've done a conversational episode, and I really miss it. That we're still kind of talking about a thing, but yeah, absolutely diddly, which is Ned Flanders for cussing.
Ned Flanderino.
You getting a part?
Yeah. Let's see where we're going with this. Okay, this episode is brought to you by Yellow Paint and being able to be young forever.
Oh.
First off, question: do you guys think they should let them grow up, or do you think that? Okay, and this is kind of a multifaceted one. Do you think they should let them grow up, and if not, should they stick to one story instead of they keep changing it? Because this Marge and Homer were married in the 70s and then the 80s, and then they were in grunge when they met. Do you wish they'd stick to one story, or?
That's kind of the magic of the Simpsons, is that nobody changes ages and they can do whatever the hell they want with the stories.
Yeah,
exactly.
Episodes. I mean, Lisa was president. Bart was a total scumbag. Adult.
Always.
So, I mean, they do have episodes where they have grown older. But, the main thrust of the entire show is that time never really affects any of them.
Yeah. Am I the only one that hates it when they do the growing up episodes?
Huh.
Probably.
No, it's just I don't. I feel like it takes the magic away, because it's like reading a comic and knowing that character's gonna die, and then let's keep watching his journey. Yes, that character's eventually gonna die, but you don't want to think about it before it hits it.
But at their rate of aging, they're gonna die in 800 years of old.
Right.
Right.
I mean, Bart's still 10 years old 35 years later.
When they age them up, it just takes a little of the magic away from me. They do the grown up thing.
Yeah, it does.
I rarely find them as funny, the characters that they do age up. When they did Maggie as president, or Lisa as president, that one was pretty good. But other than that, I really it loses the magic for me a little.
Yeah. So tell me something. Why is The Simpsons such a cultural landmark? You can't say there's a show that means more to more generations, or to as many generations as The Simpsons. Before this, the only primetime cartoon was the Flintstones, and that was a cultural landmark. But The Simpsons took it to a different level. Why is it so important to so many people? Let's start with you, Courtney.
Well, I mean, in my case, I grew up with it. We grew up watching it. And I mean, when it first came out, everybody has to remember this was before things like Bob's Burgers and Archer and the Family Guy. So South Park, when it first came out, it really kind of pushed the limit of what you would expect cartoon characters to say and do. And they were this just massively dysfunctional family that loved each other. But I mean, there's not a single episode where Homer doesn't strangle the crap out of Bart at least once.
Right.
And then there's poor Marge, I mean, they were such a dysfunctional nuclear family, and they were in cartoon form, which before they burst on the scene in Tracy Ullman, nobody had really seen anything like that. I mean, as dysfunctional as the Flintstones were, they were still pretty PG nuclear family.
They were the animated Married with the Children because they came out at the same time.
That's exactly what the Simpsons were. And I think that's what kind of appealed to people, because it was like, here all of a sudden there was this, at the time, kind of raunchy cartoon.
Yeah.
That was kid geared, but also adult geared. So I think that's why it was so successful.
Yeah. What about you, Todd? Why do you think it's just sticks around like it does?
Social commentary. They made fun of what was happening in the nuclear family. Nuclear, not nuclear, damn it.
Nuclear. Nuclear.
No, it was a husband, a wife, and 2.3 kids. It's the nuclear family.
Yeah.
Bart is just an a-hole. Lisa, and then Maggie's the baby. And, Homer's the idiot dad who has the job that supports him, and Marge is the glue that keeps them all together. It's an absolute commentary on the nuclear family.
Okay. What about you, Tyler? Why do you think?
I think all the points are valid. They're a working class family, and they managed to make you not feel so bad about your own sometimes. But but also you can pick out similarities too the whole time. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Matt Groening modeled it after his own family.
Yikes.
His brothers, sisters, all that. Some of the names are similar, but Bart is the only one that he really changed up and just made it a jumbled up word for brat. But the social commentary, I think, is why culturally it just took off. And I mean, they could poke fun at whatever was going on in daily life, and it wouldn't be tasteless. But if you had a thin skin, you might get offended. They knew how to get it to that limit and then pull back. And meanwhile, it's a cartoon. It's a cartoon doing this the whole time. Primetime cartoon.
You just made a fantastic point, man. It was also generated before the current I'm going to be offended about everything cancel culture thing. If they had launched The Simpsons right now,
it wouldn't make it.
It would die a flaming, horrible, painful death. But because it was when it was, which was the 89?
Yeah, late 80s, yeah.
8th grade.
Yeah.
So now,
and I mean, they've also the people talk about it all the time, is like The Simpsons predicted things.
Oh my God.
Like something will be in an episode, and like 3-4 years later, there it is.
Every war we've had in the last 50 years.
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty freaking amazing when you think about
Cobain, everything.
Oh, come on.
Yeah.
So now here's my question with them, with how they, really skirted the line and all that. They really did make a place for the South Parks and everything else. We wouldn't have that without The Simpsons.
We wouldn't have Family Guy. We wouldn't have South Park without The Simpsons.
Now, Simpsons is now the tame one. Now, we don't talk about religion on the show, but I think this is very important to say. Churches originally felt like The Simpsons was blasphemy, and you would, in 1989 to 1992 or 93, you could not hear a church that would not say how evil The Simpsons are. Now, they literally use The Simpsons as references and sermons as good things. They use Ned. They use Ned as an example of what it means to be a good Christian. I think it's really interesting how fast things have changed.
No, absolutely.
So is what I'm saying is The Simpsons are single-handedly responsible for the downfall of Western civilization.
Hey,
that'll be a wrap.
Got to put the blame somewhere.
Nobody's buying that one, right?
But you're absolutely right, man. My mom wouldn't even let me watch that. It would just, this family, this cartoon family. You can't listen to what they're saying. This little boy, you're gonna mimic what he's doing. video games cause violence. It just, boy, did it.
Meanwhile, my parents are, hey, The Simpsons on.
Now, okay, so somebody said something earlier that Bart's a butthole.
He is a butthole.
Is he?
He is a butthole. He's a spoiled butthole, but he's an endearing butthole.
His name's an anagram for brat.
For brat. No, I get that. And the first season, he was a little bit more, but there was a lot of love there, I'd want to say. But as it went on, I don't think...
He's an endearing butthole. Like, he's a Dennis the Menace that's not annoying and that you want to bury in the backyard. Or
No, I think
I hate Dennis the Menace.
Evidently.
Now, I think
I hate that punk.
I think the Simpsons movie did more to address the psychology of Bart than anything. With when he went and just kind of wanted to be with Flanders because he was like, "Oh wow, your hands, they feel so soft because they're not choking you." That whole when Homer just laughs at him because he was naked, and Ned covered him up, and that was like the epitome of. So I think it's Homer's. They really did blame the parent on that, and I think that it was right.
All the phone calls to Moe's.
Those are hilarious.
Probably another reason my parents didn't want me watching that.
Yeah, that was before caller ID showed up. Kind of screwed us all over on those. So, who is your favorite character and why? Let's start with Tyler on this one.
It's Homer.
Really? Why?
It's a really hard choice because all the characters in this. I mean, I was just going through the Rolodex there. Man, who do I pick? Because you just love them all for all their little quirks and everything. Homer, I always come back to him because he's just obviously, he's dumb. He's just there's not a brain cell in his head, but the whole time you can just tell that everything he's doing is genuine. He loves his family, and it really comes through. And everything he does, it's just he's doing it for his family. He's doing it out of love for his family. Majority of the time, I mean, obviously,
he's not the hardest worker in the world, but he tries. Yeah,
right. And even when he's like, I gotta get up, I gotta go to my job. Every time he screws up, he doesn't like mope and this and that. Most of the time, he just pushes through it. Probably because he doesn't know any better. But,
like that. And I want to just call up an episode when they had he was getting ridden at work really hard, and then I forgot what it was that you're here forever or something. He rearranged the letters, says do it for her.
Do it for
and
her.
He put
Maggie's
pictures of Maggie so that the letters were
do it for
because
her.
He had to go back to work. He had to go back to work at the plant because Maggie was being born, and he had to pay for it. He wanted to be a pin jockey.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. A lot of times you just see where the big dumb galoot with a giant heart comes through. And as much as he's choking Bart, I think the movie also really highlighted that, him and Bart's terrible relationship. And then they finally, they came to that point, where they were saving everybody. And, it was just pure love coming from the big dumb guy. And you can really see
it. You're making me want to cry right now. I'm serious.
It's just, every episode at least ends with him making up and hugging Marge, or making up with the kids and hugging them.
Yeah.
Super lovey-dovey. Meanwhile, we just had a half hour worth of just ridiculousness because he doesn't have a thought in his head. So super entertaining.
I mean, it's lucky he was able to do that good with his father. I mean, his father was dirtbag too. I mean, we could do a psychology of the Simpsons too. I mean, because wow. What about you, Todd? Your favorite character and why?
Funny you should bring that up after what you just said, because it's a tie, but it's tied between Grandpa because he had a really storied life.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But now he's just, quite frankly, he's just a dried up old turd. I mean,
you relate, I see.
Yeah, and he's kind of do. As far as life goes, I mean, not sexually, but life, he's just an impotent old codger that just life is passing by. Now,
screaming at the clouds.
Yeah. He is tied, and it was a very close race with Barney.
Oh, I didn't think anybody would say that, but that is Yeah,
Barney's dumber than Homer, and he doesn't have as big a heart as Homer. But my God, those belches.
Well, let's hit Barney just for a second, because Barney is actually smarter than Homer. He's probably one of the smartest people in the show. But then Homer had him discover beer, because that alcoholic gene, again, psychology of the Simpsons,
his hair
overrode everything.
Hair was perfect. Mm-hmm. Shaven kid in college, and then Homer gave him a beer.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, as much as they stay away from any kind of lessons, moral lessons on The Simpsons, that was one of them. And that was, be careful what you're getting into, because it can affect your life. And I thought that's something that stuck with me. Is I don't know what year that one came out. Probably I was in the Navy at that point. So but it definitely kind of hit my brain as, wow, so he could have had this wonderful life if only he would have made one different choice.
But also, you might notice that Barney is always in the mix. He's always where stuff is happening.
Yeah.
All the time. Mm-hmm. The funniest thing in the world is when he's like, oh, where's that sense of power and importance? Oh, there it is. When he had the gun in his hand. He's just a great character.
Now, I may have missed it. Is he still off the wagon? Because he went to Cappuccino. Is he still off the wagon?
Yeah.
Okay, so he developed the caffeine addiction.
I literally just watched an episode from season 31, and he's still drinking. So.
Fair enough. What about you, Courtney?
I like Miss Krabappel. She's not on anymore because the actress who voiced her is no longer on there. But I always she passed away. But I liked Miss Krabappel because she's just
horrible.
No, I mean she's a good person, but she has just had enough. She's had enough. She's just freaking had enough. She's done. And I mean, in the later seasons, she ends up with a man who loves her.
I loved that.
Yeah, and has a good life. And
like
so right, for a minute. But yeah, I mean and she's just played like these people make me crazy. And I relate to that a lot of times.
Yeah.
I get my favorite bottle of wine.
she's just had enough.
But I tell you what,
really like that.
Everybody had that teacher at one point in their life.
Right.
Miss Crabapple was somebody's teacher.
Miss Crabapple.
How did we miss that?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so my favorites I have two of them, and they're both side characters. I have a love for Nelson Muntz. Talk about getting dealt the worst hand you could possibly be dealt.
Oh, heartbreaking.
Yeah. My dad went to go get cigarettes. I mean, it's really heartbreaking, and he hits people because he hurts. And it really, I don't know. I just have a love for that character for whatever reason.
Also, Lisa's first kiss.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Maybe this will shut her up. Mm-hmm. And my other favorite is 1C Montgomery Burns. Layered, evil, nothing redeeming, scumbucket, piece of garbage. When he's on screen, you cannot stop watching.
I love the fact that he makes no references to anything past 1885. I love that. He'll come out and they'll just have him talk about a gyroscope, and I'm like, oh my god, this guy's so old. I love it.
I think Dub has this deep, abiding desire to actually release hounds on people.
Release the hounds.
And poor Smithers. Oh my god.
Oh, why? Okay, can we ask that question with
why
Smithers?
What?
Smithers is a decent looking fella. Why does he have the obsession with Monty Burns? Is that because he liked the December-April thing?
You don't get to choose who you love, Dub. It just happens.
Power.
The gay thing never bothered me
Smithers
growing
had a
up.
boyfriend.
That bothered me that he's after the old man. It's like, ew.
Smithers actually had a boyfriend at one point in time
Always felt icky.
who looked like a Ken doll.
Come on, Doug.
But, you know, his true love is Mr. Burns.
Are sexy.
But while we're on it, Smithers originally black.
Yeah.
On the first episode, and then they
he was kind of purple.
But then then they miscolored him the next one and said, "I'll just go with it."
Yeah. Fun.
I don't know how that one works. Okay, so now we have a special quiz from Kimberly. So take it away.
I am Kimberly, and I am Tyler's wife, and I'm going to give you a quiz on The Simpsons. What is Homer Simpson's middle name?
Ooh, that's a good question. No. We're going to do these in order. And we just behind the scenes, we wrote these down first. So, nobody cheats because you heard the answer from somebody else. Let's start with who I don't think knows it, and that is Courtney.
I don't. I know his middle initial is J, but that's all I know.
You have to say the name and spell it. Because Todd's out to pop. Tyler, what's your answer, sir?
I do believe it's J, and is it J-A-Y?
Very good.
God, really?
Yep.
Oh, I feel stupid.
Right on.
Okay, Todd, what is your answer?
J.
Yep. Spell it.
I'm not
I already gave it away.
Spell it other than J-A-Y.
There you go. Courtney. Okay, sorry.
Courtney got nothing.
Okay, now let's move on to question
First
2.
episode of The Simpsons, Homer loses his whole paycheck to a bad bet. What does he bring home for Christmas?
Oh, that's a good one. Todd, what is your answer for this? I like to give it to whoever I think's not going to know the answer.
I have no GD idea.
Wow, that is so far off. Okay. Courtney.
At least I'm honest.
Yes, you are.
Santa's Little Helper.
Santa's Little Helper. Tyler.
Oh, the dogs. Duh.
Yep. Santa's Little Helper.
Nice
Little
one.
Helper.
So we wow, Tyler, you are in first place with 2. Everyone else is
I'm gonna
on
kick my booty,
1.
I can tell.
Okay, let's move on to the next one.
Throughout the entire show, Bart is terrorized by a psychopath. Who is that psychopath?
Okay, let's start with you this time, Tyler.
I'm going to go with Sideshow Bob.
Very good. Should I make you guys ask who's voiced him too, just because it's more interesting? Nah.
Sure.
Kelsey Grammer.
Yeah, so everyone knows this one all around, I'm guessing. Okay. Okay, so
When Sideshow Bob gets kicked off, he's replaced by Sideshow Mel.
yep, yeah. That was such a good storyline. And that is actually one of his stories makes my top 5 list, by the way, just FYI. Okay, let's go on to the next one, Kimberly.
Who provided the voice for Poochie in the Itchy and Scratchy and Poochie show?
Okay, let's Courtney. Who's the voice of Poochie?
Homer.
Very good.
Oh.
Oh. Some people got it wrong. Todd.
Actually, it was Dan Castellaneta.
I'll give it to you. I'll give it to you. And Tyler.
My wife's gonna hate that I don't really. I gotta take a guess. Was it Stubbs' bare nipple on Marco Polo?
God bless him.
And with that, we just tied the game. Okay, Kimberly, take it away.
What did Homer smuggle on board of the spaceship when he went to space?
Okay, let's start with Todd on this one.
Well, this is a little dicey because there were gone. If I remember correctly, he smuggled on crackers, which when they hit 0 G, all the crumbs went everywhere. But what he intentionally bring on were the ants. And when one of the ants went like that to the camera, the news guy was like, and I'd like to welcome our ant overlords.
So now I'm not going to tell you if you're right or wrong. We're going to wait till Kimberly comes on. Courtney, what is your answer on this one?
Potato chips.
Very good. Tyler.
A bag of chips.
All that and a bag of chips.
Do I get half credit for the ants?
I think you should get half a point for ants because I didn't remember the ants.
It's close.
Now
Okay, so and let's get to our next question. Take it away, Kimberly.
What is the name of the Ned Flanders store at the mall?
Okay, let's start with Tyler on this one.
The Knick-Knackerinos?
Okay,
That's a good
I'm not gonna
guess.
tell you. I'm gonna let Kimberly
I
answer
like
at the
that.
end. That was pretty good, though.
That's
Yeah,
good.
for creativity on that.
What about you, Todd? What's your guess on this one?
Oh, I know what it is. It's leftorium, I believe it is.
It is.
Oh, man. Now that you say it.
I know, right? It's like
Courtney?
That was my guess, and I wasn't sure if I was going to be right. It was the leftorium. I thought that was way too easy to be correct.
Yeah. I'm just being the dog.
That one, I just a quick story, real quick. That I don't know why that store just means so much to me. I'm left-handed, and that was like the first time I ever saw anything left-handed talked about on TV. It was, yeah, I don't know. I was younger, and it was like, oh, they do care about me. Okay,
They don't really.
yeah.
Shut
Nope.
your dirty mouth right now. Now we're done. We're done.
Keep putting you two together on these shows.
Done.
Right. You know this
Okay.
is what happens.
Kimberly, give us our last one.
What is the name of the beverage that Homer created?
Okay, so let's start with you, Courtney.
It's the flaming Homer, which becomes the flaming Mo.
Very good.
Oh,
Todd?
it is the Flaming Homer made with cough syrup. And Mo stole the idea, renamed it, and it became a huge hit.
I think it was Purple Drank. Tyler.
Purple Drink. No, the Flaming Homer.
Okay.
Oh, the Flaming Homer. Yeah.
That
Flaming
show,
Mo.
you know what? I always wanted to give Mo a chance until that episode. I've hated him ever since.
I like the fact that they.
Oh, yes.
Wow.
Yeah, but then they did their really cool Homers, the Phantom of the Opera, and the rafters of the bar thing.
Yeah.
Come on, that was
I
great.
like when they tell the backstory. You have good-looking Mo. He's very handsome.
All right.
Well, Kimberly, thank you very much. And
Yay!
the winner is Courtney. Yay!
Yeah.
You win
Brain full of
Tyler's
useless
undying respect.
information.
That's what you get.
We've
This
got
means my
for a week.
we got a bunch
means-
of full-color pictures of Tyler and Dub with their shirts off for you.
seen them, don't care.
People are going to have so many questions about what goes on behind the scenes of this
Right.
show.
And you
I
know
swear.
what? You just live in those moments, listeners. We'll tell you one day, but today's not that day.
Okay, so
Thank-
now comes kind of the depressing part of the show, because this is when we have to be really honest with ourselves and ask ourselves a question that none of us can deny happens. When did the show lose its magic for you? Start with you, Tyler.
Honestly, it's probably it had to be sometime after probably the 14th, 15th season. We just started, life, man. Life started going on, and it wasn't enough to just keep me like, I gotta watch this, I've been watching it for, years up until that point. So, and I go back to it, and I don't think, especially in quarantine, we watched a lot of it in quarantine, like a lot of people may have. I don't really think they've lost any of their touch for me. The material and their angle is kind of different, the way they approach things, the way they bring it to you. But, the timing is all still there and everything for me. A lot of the issues they touch on, I still find it all hilarious. life got in the way, and it just wasn't enough to keep me there.
Okay, that's fair. What about you, Todd?
Well, it's kind of an interesting thing because, I mean, I was watching the Tracy Ullman show back in the day, and I was there for the first episode, and man, I was just like, my God, this is brilliant. Wow. And I watched for a while, and I mean, even in 1992, when my dad retired and he was 62 years old, and my mom got him a black shirt and it had Bart's face on it with a speech bubble that says, "Don't have a cow, man." And it became my dad's.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, 62 years old, and it's his favorite friggin' shirt. Yeah. Anyways, we watched it as a family for years and years, but I can tell you the exact date that it kind of lost favor with me. That would be August 13th of 1997.
Why is that?
South Park. That was like The Simpsons on acid. It was so much more hard-hitting and unafraid, and The Simpsons just kind of paled by comparisons. Don't get me wrong. At any given time, if I see that there's a Simpsons thing going on, or for God's sakes, one of their Halloween specials, I'm in front of the tube. I'll watch it. I still do love the show. They've had their ups and downs, but they're good. I mean, let's be serious. The writing is terrific. And I can't get enough of
yeah,
ever. So yeah, I'll still watch them at any time, but they got a little tame for my tastes. That's about it.
Well, I want to counterpoint that. I don't know if they got any tamer, but the society got edgier.
I can deal with that, and I mean, South Park is
so far over the line.
I am a staunch believer in inappropriateness, and so, yeah.
Courtney, what about you?
I don't really remember when I stopped watching it consistently, to be honest. It was probably about the same as when Todd and Tyler stopped. But I will say that when we all got locked down and I discovered that all the episodes were on Disney Plus, I started at the beginning again and I watched them, and I'm up to season 31 now. And I will admit, now that I've gone back and I've started to rewatch and everything, it's still as good as it was when it first came out. I mean, it is pretty consistent for all of it. And you would think after it's like a 33 now, season 33 or 34 or something.
Like ridiculous.
And like, I know it's up to season 32 on Disney Plus. Yes, there's the odd, bad, not great episode, but it is surprisingly consistent in how good it is
and relevant
over all that time. Yeah, and over all that time. I mean, I'm like I said, I'm up to season 31 now in this quarantine pandemic. It's on Disney Plus rewatch.
Yeah.
And I hadn't seen a lot of the episodes because like everybody else, I kind of petered off. It wasn't South Park for me. It was Family Guy that kind of usurped The Simpsons, which is just as dirty.
33 years ago, what were you doing?
I was 10.
Yeah.
I was 10 years old. So, but yeah, I mean, it's still, I was Bart Simpson 33 years ago, but, yeah, I mean, I don't know when I stopped watching really, but it's probably around the same time that Todd and Tyler did consistently, probably about season 14 or 15.
Yeah. It strikes me that I lasted a lot longer than all y'all, but I remember the day that I stopped. Well, I was in the Navy for a while, so that doesn't count. I was, I was gone for months at a time. But when I stopped like being excited to turn it on every week was the first time they advertised the Simpsons movie. And in my head, I'm like, okay, well, this is it. And I stopped being excited. And ever since that point, it feels like something that I watch and I enjoy, but I don't care anymore. And it was that movie, I felt like which kind of leads me to my next question. I feel like that's the point they should have killed the show. I think that's a good point to go out. Yes, it's consistent. It's not reaching a new generation of fans. A new generation of fans doesn't care about The Simpsons.
Correct, because they much higher bar stuff like South Park.
Yeah, and they it may be just as good, but I think it's time to pull the plug. Do y'all feel that way, or am I on my own island, Tyler?
I personally would just love to see just how far they can take it. Because at this point, after the movie and after, a lot of us petered off, it seems to be around the same time a lot of people did. And then they start coming back. And though it's consistent, it doesn't seem to matter as much to people. So just keep it going. Just keep going,
That's fair.
I wouldn't bother me none. But I would fully understand if around the time they release the movie or maybe just a hair after that, or they went ahead and tied up some loose ends from the movie and just that was it. I would fully understand if they did that too because it's been on for so long.
Yeah. There's one thing they haven't done yet, and we'll get to that in a second. Todd, what about you? Do you think they should pull the plug, or is there a point they should have?
Tyler makes a very good point. If there's still money to be made,
help make it,
which is going to be the marketing decision as to whether to pull the plug or not. And I mean, what the hell? Let's see if a cartoon can go 50 seasons.
Right?
Holy smoke!
That makes me feel sad.
And the kids are still 10. That's awesome. That being said, they probably should have plucked that daffodil at about 20 years or after the movie, whichever came first. Personal opinion.
I think it's now become the longest running television show in television history. I think it was Gunsmoke for the longest time.
It still is Meet the Press. Because that's been on since the beginning of TV.
I'm not talking about that. We're talking about entertainment, not Meet the Press is considered news. Because you could say the same thing about, you could say the same thing about like the ABC Nightly News because it's been on for as long too. So a television show, I think, is what the basis of what it is. And it used to be like either Gunsmoke or
that was on forever.
The one with the Ponderosa.
Yeah,
they own a couple of records. The first, of course, is cartoon. The second is primetime comedic show. I mean, geez, 33 years is a long time to do anything.
Yeah.
If they can keep their cast from dying in real life, go.
Yeah. And I mean, the thing is I think, I mean, it has to be pulling the numbers.
Yeah.
So there have to be people that are watching it, whether they're watching it consistently or not, I don't know. But obviously there's still a market for it, and there's still people watching it because, I mean, it's making money. Like Disney wouldn't be dumping money in it. And Fox would not be renewing it for a bazillion gazillion
Fox would not
seasons.
exist without The Simpsons.
Exactly. And I mean, they're renewing it. So I mean, obviously we're not watching it consistently, but there's obviously people that are out there watching it consistently enough to the point that Fox keeps renewing it and they keep making more seasons of it. So I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't know when they should end it. I mean, and like I said, now that I'm doing the rewatch, it is still consistently a good show. It's not like it's a crappy show and they should have ended it 20 years ago because it was crappy. So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, has it been on for too long? Probably.
The passion's definitely gone.
Yeah, I mean, it's still a good show. It's still an enjoyable show. It's still a funny show. So, I mean, it's still a consistently good show. But, I mean, should it have probably been kibbutz a couple years? Yeah, I mean,
So here's my idea
hard to tell.
on how to get the magic back, and y'all can agree or throw me your ideas. This, I think, would bring the magic back. You want to keep making money. You want to keep having shows. Give us an hour episode once a month. That way, you're gonna
work as an hour
because you can have your tree houses of horror. a Treehouse of Horror, you can do that as an hour episode, or just give us the holiday episodes. Give us an hour long Christmas, an hour long or a 2 hour long Treehouse of Horror.
Maybe like a Friday night thing.
Yeah.
Hey, Dub. Disney has experience with having a 1 hour show in primetime on Sunday nights. The Wonderful Disney, they own it. They could make room for it.
Yeah, but
it doesn't fit.
Yeah, and it's on Fox.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not on ABC. The Wonderful World of Disney was on ABC.
And then they're not going to let that switch around.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing is like, there's all that baloney. But I loved The Wonderful World of Disney, side note.
Watched Tinkerbell? Yeah. Okay.
Those terrible movies in the 80s and 90s, those were the best, man.
Let's move on to our main event.
Now it's time for the main event.
Okay, so for our main event today, we asked, what are your top 5 favorite episodes of The Simpsons? I do mine last. So let's start with Tyler. What is your number 5? Your top 5 favorite?
Okay, in my list, no particular order.
Fair enough.
The Treehouse of Horrors episode, the first one.
The first one
with the Raven.
The Raven. The first time we meet Kodos and Kang.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yep.
Wow.
It's a classic. As far as exactly. It's a classic.
Good call.
Oddly enough, that was the first time they aired it was in the second season. But for whatever reason, it just became an instant classic. I mean, who doesn't know Treehouse of Horror? When you think of any kind of cartoon, Treehouse of Horror. Oh, yeah.
Well, English teachers were using the Raven section in their classrooms.
Yeah. Yep.
But it truly was the best, I think, out of every TV show in the world, the best holiday special that you can get. Christmas or whatever, that the Treehouse of Horror is the best.
And consistently good.
Extravaganza. Oh my God, the ratings they got every year for that show were just...
That's the one people are still excited about every year.
People look forward to the Treehouse of Horror.
It became an event.
Yeah.
Okay. Todd, what's your number 5, sir?
Funny enough, all of the Treehouse of Terror episodes.
I love it.
Every single one of them is as good, if not better, than the last and the one that follows. You just can't get away from the fact it was a marvelous idea. It paid off in spades for them, and honestly, it's still going on. If I hear they're going to have, I'll find one of my buddies who hasn't cut his cable, and I'll go to his damn house and watch it. I mean, come on.
Courtney, what is your number 5?
Bart the Murderer. That's the one where he ends up being the bartender for the mob, and then they try to pin everything on it. My favorite part is when he walks into the kitchen in a 3-piece suit, and he looks at Marge and goes, "Give me 3 fingers of milk, Ma."
Right.
It's so funny. And then they try to blame everything. They try to blame everything on him because Skinner's missing, and they think he's been murdered, and Bart put the hit out on.
Yeah.
It's so good.
And Bart plays the part, yes.
Okay, so my number
Tony.
No, Joe Mantegna in that role is, oh my gosh.
Wait, they keep bringing him back. Everybody loves Fat Tony.
Yeah. So my number 5, Mr. Plow. That's my name. My name again is Mr. Plow.
It's Mr. Plow.
I don't know what it is about that one, but that one always just speaks to me. I mean, I love the fact that he gets his mojo back with Marge because he's wearing, leave the jacket on, homie. I mean, oh my gosh, how horrifying is that thought? And it's like, I can't get enough. Go ahead, Courtney.
Side note, I just watched an episode that they did in the season 31, where it's one of those ones where they take place in a different time period, and he takes place in ancient Rome, and Homer's a gladiator, and his nickname is Mr. Plow.
Nice.
Yeah. And that jacket makes several appearances throughout the years. It's been a yard sale.
He's not even wearing the jacket. They just call him, the gladiator's nickname is Mr. Plow because he was an ox.
Do you know how many applications for licenses for businesses called Mr. Plow that were put in the United States after that episode? It's in the hundreds.
Well, and then Linda Ronstadt coming in and doing Barney's Plow King theme song. That was hilarious. So funny.
And Barney's in the mix.
Always. Okay, so we're moving on to our number 4. And Tyler, what is your number 4, sir?
That would be the murder mystery of who shot Mr. Burns.
Two-parter.
Yeah.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
I think I'm the only one that hated those episodes.
Now it's a one-time watch.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's so full of holes.
Over with.
So full of holes.
Come on!
When I was
who
watching
doesn't
that,
love a little baby girl with a gun?
Yeah, even adults that didn't really like the show, if they were around and the kids were watching, it's like, oh wow. Who could,
my dad,
we had a murder mystery on a stupid cartoon. Yeah.
My dad, who was not a Simpsons guy, watched that episode with us and would argue with it. And he's a lawyer, so he's really good at arguing.
Oh.
Would argue about who he thought killed Mr. Burns.
Yeah, we all did. We had to wait.
And the way they wrote it.
Perfect.
Could have been anybody.
No, well, yeah, they wrote it so that it could have been any person in the town. So, I wanted to like that one. I really do.
I loved it.
I think the first time I watched it, I wasn't paying enough attention. So therefore, on subsequent watches, I'm like.
And Courtney, wasn't it written like one of your favorite things in the world, a pulp novel?
Yep. Well,
Definitely
I mean,
was.
you had Mr. Burns trying to block out the sun.
The sun.
And there's like that great line where Mr. Burns is like, Smitherd had previously thwarted my endeavors to take candy from a baby. And I wanted to wallow in my own cropulence. Like,
twirl on that mustache.
So good.
Oh, Todd, I think it's your turn.
Oh, for the number 4?
Yes.
24 Minutes is the name of the episode. It was the, good grief, 18th season, 21st episode, and it had a counter-truancy unit headed by Lisa, of course.
Yeah.
And they had 24 minutes based on the show 24 hours, and they had 24 minutes to stop a stink bomb from going off at Springfield Elementary. And it actually had Kiefer Sutherland and what's her name? Mary Lynn Ricegub, who played Chloe O'Brien on 24 Hours. Both of them had their voices on the show. It was hysterical. And it was a deep, 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 deep.
And I can't believe we didn't hit all the cameos. Freaking Michael Jackson appeared. Oh,
yeah.
But he wasn't allowed to be. He wasn't allowed to be credited as Michael Jackson, but it was him.
It was silliness.
Lisa, it's your birthday. Sorry,
Courtney. What is your number 4?
Not that episode, but that's a good one.
Dairy
Queen.
Remind me.
Dairy Queen. That is the one that they did in homage to Marcia Wallace after she passed away. So it's an all Mrs. Krabappel episode. She's not in it, but they all talk. Bart finds her diary in a bunch of books. It's a beautiful episode, and like it ends with Ned, who she was married to by this point, talking about her being his best second wife, and it was a beautiful homage.
It was a beautiful eulogy.
And it was great.
Thing.
Yeah, I mean, The Simpsons, that's one thing they always get right when they want to pay some tribute. Yeah. They do.
And even like in the beginning when Bart's writing on the chalkboard, which he does, it's different. It says, "We miss you, Mrs. K."
Yeah.
I mean, it's just a beautiful homage to her, the whole episode.
Yeah. I'm just sad now. Okay, so
That's okay. Well,
Let's
the
move-
next episodes will pump you up, I'm sure.
so my number 4 is the Cape Fear episode when it's the exact knockoff of Cape Fear with Robert De Niro. Sideshow Bob being as evil as the most evil he will ever be on the show. He could never be more evil than he was in that episode. Die, Bart, and doing the jail time.
Stepping
Oh my
on
gosh.
the
Oh, it
rakes.
doesn't say die, Bart.
Oh,
die.
the rakes.
Yeah.
Be, Bart, be.
Yeah.
Nice.
The stepping on rakes, which becomes like a running gag for him.
Yeah, that got to be that was a trademark after that episode.
So funny.
Watching when he did the belt thing on the shaft of the car, started banging his head on every rock, going up and going through potholes. Just fantastic. Okay,
funny.
Tyler, number
So
3.
funny.
Please make it a one that's going to pump us up.
All right. Art of Darkness. Do we have a pool deck? We have a pool deck. It was when they got the pool, Bart broke his leg.
Mm-hmm.
If not, the whole first half of the episode wasn't good enough. Then it turned into a murder
Rear
mystery
view.
as
Yeah,
he
It was a
thought he
whole.
heard
It was a
Flanders
whole
and
play on
witnessed him
Rear
murder his
Window.
wife.
mm-hmm.
Hitchcock
would have been proud of that one.
Indeed.
It was
There-
good.
I think he would have taken pride in that.
It's so good.
Oh yeah, it was such
So
a good
good.
episode. I mean, it almost feels like 2 different episodes when you watch it. 'Cause
Yeah.
the whole thing with
Mhm.
the pool and the summertime and everything, and then it turns into the
Yep.
Flanders killed his wife.
And I'd say we've seen that 100 times on TV, and I think that was the best one that was done. Maybe not next to the original, but
Fair enough.
we've seen it a million times on TV on sitcoms. They just did that one right.
Mhm.
Because the Simpsons always do
Agreed.
stuff right. I'm gonna go watch more Simpsons now. Todd, what is your number 3, sir?
Okay. Because I'm a constitutional bloviator, in the in the middle of the 8th season came a episode called Homer versus the 18th Amendment.
I almost put that one on my list.
Yeah. After a particularly drunken episode in the town, they enacted prohibition, and Homer became a bootlegger.
Mhm.
And
It was-
Rich.
He made a ton of money. Yeah. So
Put it in bowling balls. Didn't he put it in bowling
Yeah.
balls?
a hole and yes. It was just a brilliant take on the follies of prohibition, and it took a very serious matter and of course made complete fun of it. So has a little soft spot in the heart for me. So
Very good. Courtney?
Boy Scouts in the Hood. It's the episode where Milhouse and Bart go on a squishy bender
Oh, okay.
because they have a poo make them a squishy that's just totally syrup. So they go on a squishy bender through the town, and they wake up and end up realizing that they've joined the Boy Scouts with Rod and Todd.
Oh.
yeah.
and Ned's the scout leader. Just the squishy bender montage is my
Yeah.
favorite part of that
Right.
Well, we've all been there as kids. I mean, hey. Okay, so
because they paint the town Broadway style.
only Milhouse can get away with saying that. So
Me.
bad. Everything's coming up Milhouse. Oh,
so good.
my number 3 is an existential one, and that is Bart sells his soul. Watching the torment of a kid that would believe he was soulless because he believes he is bad and evil. And when he gives his soul away, oh my gosh.
And Lisa buys it back for him.
That close in my list, dude.
Yeah, it's such a great episode. It's just one of those that that's a pretty deep subject. And, you want to talk psychology of Bart, you don't talk that without that episode.
And it's also such a great image of how much Bart and Lisa actually love each other.
Yeah.
Because Lisa buys his soul back for him.
He covered a lot of parables from the King James Bible.
Mm-hmm.
And how evil is Milhouse? Oh my gosh.
Complete.
We knew it.
He's such a dyke. I hate that little wiener.
I don't think he's anybody's favorite person on the
I
show.
hate that little wiener.
Since he toughed out the line, I'm so hungry I could eat at Arby's, and everybody went, ew! I was like, what? Right,
hold on. Yeah.
Okay, Tyler, what's your number 2, sir?
All right. A lot of these episodes come from when I was much younger. It's the ones that stick out in my memory. I love a lot of episodes. So, this one's One Fish, Two Fish, Blowfish,
Bluefish.
When he ate the blowfish and thought he had 24 hours to live.
Yeah.
The way they wrote that episode as like, a young middle school kid, I really thought this was it. We're watching like Homer might die. Like I'm on the edge of my seat, I'm thinking my show's gonna end. The show that my mom doesn't want me to watch and I love so much. and I just thought it was done really well. And then when she comes out and checks his saliva and it's warm, it was fantastic.
Yeah.
The Bible read by by Larry King. The Bible on tape.
Mm-hmm.
The way they could take such deep subjects and just make them funny and lighthearted enough that a kid can understand and learn from them. And it was never trying to teach anybody a lesson, but it did. Todd, I need to go give Simpsons another watch all the way through.
This be quick and easy. My number 2 is Flaming Moe's.
Yeah, which was discussed. I don't give
that one.
Yes.
How Mo sucks. Okay, I'm sorry. Just he deserves the crap life he has.
Mo deserved every phone call from Bart.
Yes. And every heartbreak he's had, and all the urinal cakes. I'm just saying, all of it. Courtney,
I'm looking for Amanda Kiss. Anybody seen Amanda Kiss?
Amanda Huggy Kiss.
They always have the same bad laugh in the back.
If I get a hold of you, I'm going to rip your spine out through your throat.
That was my first customized ringtone, by the way.
Nice.
On my Nokia phone, when you could you could get it. And actually, you could download Mo saying that. Listen here, you little. Courtney, what is your number 2?
I don't remember what the episode is, and it wasn't really part of the episode, but I like the Bartman. Because it was in that time period where all the sitcoms were doing weird musical numbers, do the Urkel and do the Bartman. So yeah, I like the Bartman.
I'm ashamed to admit it, but there was a girl that liked me, I guess, because that's what you did, and you give people mixtapes back in that day, and somebody put Bartman. She put Bartman on the mixtape, so it's a weird memory for me.
Okay.
Did that episode come out around Bartmania?
I think so.
It was going crazy then. It was on MTV.
It was a big
literally
deal.
Every hour.
Yeah.
That's how you got to hit. Bartmania. One character creates me.
We could all sing the Bartman song.
Okay, my number 2 is The Simpsons throwing the finger at any continuity issues. They're saying there is no such thing as canon, and that is the Principal and the Pauper, which you find out Skinner is not really Skinner, and they go through that whole storyline, and at the end of it, they go, "We don't like this guy. Get on a train, go away." The mayor says, "We will never talk about this again under penalty of death."
Okay. Little known fact, that is actually based on a French story called Martin Guerre, where Martin Guerre goes off to war. The guy Armand Tanzarian, comes back to the village and takes his place after the war is over. It's another one of those things where it's another one of those highbrow moments that work on so many different levels where it's funny here, but it's if this is based on Les Mis and this is based on Martin Guerre, it makes it even funnier.
Wasn't that
to me?
Say that again, Todd.
Wasn't that a Jim Carrey movie about the guy who crashes and comes back into town and they all think he's the kid that went off to war?
remember that one.
I don't know.
I've seen it. I've seen that in a
Probably.
few different iterations.
Yeah, the French story of Martin Guerre is it's like Les Mis or Cyrano de Bergerac, which is another one that the Simpsons played on. They like to take these stories from literature and just spin them with the Simpsons. I love it.
And it gave us one of the single greatest lines to come out of the Simpsons. As Armand Tanzarian is riding off on his motorcycle, says, "Screw you, children." I mean, just the delivery. Oh my! I cannot not laugh when I watch that. It's just such a great line. It's delivered so well. And let's go with our number ones, Tyler.
My number one is gonna be number one. Simpsons roasting on an open fire.
Such an important episode.
Absolutely.
Every one of my friends talked about that in computer class the day after that aired.
That's a lot of where, some of that, like I said, you see that soft side of Homer. He's got that soft spot for his family, obviously, his dad. But, he's just a big galoot with a big heart. He comes home after doing something really stupid. And like I say, he just keeps chugging along and he fixes it by, hey, look what I got, It's just the whole thing and being the staple episode that, kicked it all off. It's such a significant episode, at least in my pop culture experience. So,
Very good. Todd, what's your number one?
The third episode ever of The Simpsons. It was called Homer's Odyssey. It's when he became a crusader for safety, and it didn't take him very long before the entire town hated him for it. Dub, you and I have been in the security field for quite some time. We know, have seen up close what happens when people are given this much authority. Guaranteed. 95% of people given that much authority will abuse it that much. So it kind of hit home for me.
Very nice.
And of course, Homer's Odyssey alludes to the
Odyssey. Homer.
Odyssey by Homer.
Written by Homer.
Which is pretty brilliant, actually. Courtney, what's your number one?
A Streetcar Named Marge.
Which
is where they do the musical version of A Streetcar Named Desire.
And Homer broke down.
Yeah. And Marge plays
Blanche
Dubois, and Ned is Stanley.
Stella,
I'm your fellow. And then and John Lovitz doing the voice.
Off. Yeah, that's the critic.
Doing the no, he's not the critic.
No, he was
the
director. Yeah,
he's being the director.
He was the critic later on another episode.
It is literally. It's funny the way that it's written, and Homer gets it, but it also cracks me up because I've done so much theater in my life. It's like I know people like the John Lovitz character. So I mean, it's another one that was just on a personal level. It's extra funny because there will never be a musical version of A Streetcar Named Desire. And like years later, I did costumes for a theater production of Streetcar, and the director and I made Simpson jokes the entire time because it's it's one of those things that just stays in relevancy, and it was just hilarious. But Todd's right. I mean, the thing is Homer finally understands why Marge is so sad and why she can play. And I mean, it's just he's moved. I mean, it's such a great episode.
Nice.
I love that one.
So my number one is number one for a very strange reason, and it is because of 4 seconds, and it breaks my heart every time I watch it. And I love Lisa. The I choose you. Oh, yeah. No good deed goes unpunished. But the scene where Bart's rewinding and
you can pinpoint the exact time
his heart breaks, and I'm like, oh.
That was rough.
But I will not watch that episode if it's on, because it is just wow.
I bet my Wookiee.
And you feel bad for for Ralph, but you feel bad for Lisa because that is a tough spot for a little girl to be put into. And it's massage the male ego, blah blah blah, and this little girl has to do it. She's not prepared for that, and it says a lot.
Prepared for that?
Nobody.
Jesus Christ! I'm in my mid-50s. I'm not prepared for that.
Okay, so that is an episode. I want to say one thing: The Simpsons is not allowed to end until they do a crossover with The Simpsons and all other Simpsons-related properties. That includes Futurama. That includes there was another one. There was another one that came off The Simpsons. What was it? Futurama.
I don't know. I don't
know. You know what? I thought there was another one, but you know what? Give me one with The Simpsons and Futurama in a full-scale episode. Then you can end it.
I'd like to see Brian try to get his head around Bart. Yeah.
Yeah. I think they would communicate well. I would like to see Bender talk to Grandpa. Bender and Abe. Yes, this needs to happen.
Bender and Barney.
One thing I want to point out, because my wife does it all the time, they have put out so much material at this point. There's not a situation you can't reference The Simpsons into somehow. If you're savvy enough.
South Park made an episode about that.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
We can't talk about anything. Simpsons did it first.
Simpsons episode about that, or she'll quote something. Really,
Well, as I say, going back to the beginning, this is such an important part of our culture, and it just seeped in like a fungus, like a mold, just grows there. And sticks.
Mm-hmm.
Family Guy addresses the fact that nobody ever ages in both of them because Stewie says I'm one, and Brian goes still.
Yeah,
and Stewie's like, what?
He's in The Simpsons. Santa's little helper doesn't speak.
Well, South Park, they at least let him go up a grade once. I don't know.
I think
with that being said, check out the website, www.iheartgeekshow.com. Use the column we paid extra for it. Yes, we did this week.
Yes, we did.
Let's see what else. Go to Comic-Con. We'll be on the floor going all over the amazing Comic-Con, June.
Las Vegas. Amazing Comic-Con.
Yeah, I believe June 17th, 18th, 19th, somewhere in there, that weekend. We'll be all over the place. Come talk to us, get interviewed or whatever, or just hang out with us, get some stickers and stuff. Go talk to us on our Facebook, our Twitter. And we are back, baby. I miss these conversations. They're the highlights. They're one of the highlights of my life. I'm Dub. I'm here with Courtney. We're here with Tyler. We're here with Todd. Keep on geeking on, guys. We will see you next time.
Peace.
You have been listening to the latest episode of the iHeart Geek Show. Make sure you visit our website at www.iheartgeekshow.com. Make sure to follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And if you check us out on YouTube, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And keep on geeking on to all of you geek rock stars.